Well, welcome everyone. We're excited that you joined us today for the NAWBO Iowa Business Institute informational meeting. And we've been through 1 year of the program, a brand new program, and we're excited now to launch into the second year and keep growing this program for NAWBO Iowa. And I'd first like to do a couple introductions so you know who the presenters are today. And we do want this to be a casual conversation, and we'll share a lot of great information, but then we do want to ask for questions because we know that you all might have questions that we haven't thought about. So, Karla, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself first of all.
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Karla Rendall, and I own Rendall Insurance Agency. I have been affiliated with NAWBO off and on for over 15 years. The last 4 years as a member, prior to that as a corporate sponsor. So I am very passionate about NAWBO, what we represent and what we're doing for other women business owners across the state and nationally, and a huge advocate for what we're doing.
Thanks, Karla. And Karla was a member in our first cohort, so she's going to be sharing her experience with you all today as well. And I'm Tamara Kenworthy, and I own On Point Strategies. My focus is strategic planning, market research, and marketing planning, and work with businesses across that spectrum. And I also serve with Karla on the NAWBO board and serve as a director of the Business Institute. So a few years ago, with Donna Miller, we were co-directors in developing the Institute, and I'm carrying that torch forward here as a board member as well. So I am going to share my screen and we'll get right into the presentation, and then we'll come back for Q&A and answer any questions that you might have. So let me get my screen shared here, and we welcome Lindsay. As I'm doing that, Lindsay, do you want to just share what your business is and where you live?
Yeah, so I'm new to NAWBO, so excited to be here. Live in Ankeny. I've been in business for 3 years this month. I own Empowering Consulting, so I do business and life coaching.
Great, thanks for joining us today. And we had a lot of people register, and I know we'll have the recording link. So for those of you that couldn't join us live today, we are recording and we'll send this out to you. So get my screen pulled up here. And there, can you see my screen okay? Okay, so we're going to advance through. I'm going to start with sharing some information about NAWBO, first of all, just so you know who the sponsoring organization is for NAWBO. And I'm not going to read the slides to you today, but want to just emphasize a few points. We are affiliated with the National Association, the National Association of Women Business Owners, and we kind of use the WBO for Women Business Owners as an acronym, our WBOs. And you can see our mission statement on the screen, a recently revised mission statement by our Iowa chapter, because we really are wanting to really help propel women business owners into the spheres of influence statewide from a lot of different areas. And you can kind of see in these buckets at the bottom, NAWBO, I think, first and foremost, is really a wonderful resource of a strong community of like-minded women. I think since I've been a member of NAWBO for many years, it's such a collegial environment. It's very it's so inspiring because all of the members really do want to help each other. It's not a parochial environment at all. And I think because we are all women, we really want to see women succeed. We believe that NAWBO has a lot of prestige in the state, very focused on reaching statewide, certainly a very active in-person program here in central Iowa as well. But our organization is really about knowledge and about networking and sharing knowledge that can help all of us grow in our businesses, but also networking so we can learn from each other and share our voices with each other. And our programming for the past few years is basically, it's labeled Thrive Now. And it's coming from both a healthy and a wealthy perspective. So we want to help our members thrive healthy individually as well as in their business, but also from a wealth standpoint, individually and in their business. So when we look at those 4 quadrants, our programming really supports and fulfills that mission that we have with our programming. Advocacy is also a very big component of NAWBO Iowa. We have an advocacy committee, an annual program in which we're really trying to reach our legislative team so that we can have a voice at the table, not just for small businesses, but for women's small businesses as well. And so that's really important, an important aspect of NAWBO, both from the educational, the networking, and the advocacy components. And lastly, with just a drive to move forward in helping all of us achieve success. You can also see this bucket of solutions. I think we really aren't just about talk, but we really do want to drive solutions forward to make it a better environment for everyone. And we feel like we've played a role in kind of moving Iowa up and nationally as far as the strength of women-owned businesses. So that's a little bit about NAWBO Iowa. It's important for you to understand where this program stems from and who's sponsoring it. And as a NAWBO Iowa chapter, about 3 or 4 years ago in strategic planning, it really became apparent that, we really wanted to extend our program offerings into a really formalized program, such as a leadership institute, a business institute that we're all familiar with from other organizations for different paths that we might go down. Some of them are very industry related, some of them are more leadership related. But because we're about businesses for women, we felt we wanted to put a stake in the ground to create a business institute for our members, but also women business owners that aren't members as well. Our program is open to any women business owner. I think our value proposition, as you can see here on the screen, and it's one that we take great pride in, is that this program has been created and developed by women, and it's created for women. We know that there are a lot of other great programs out there to grow your business. All of them are co-ed, and they're wonderful programs, but we do believe that when you have all women at the table, the conversation is very different, and it's an important conversation. And that's why we put the stake in the ground, is so that women feel like we can have a safe and open and a very creative environment that we can connect and bond with each other in this type of program. So we also, at the bottom, we talk about the missing middle. The other reason that NAWBO Iowa was really interested in creating such a program was, as we all know, there's a lot of programming and organizations dedicated to startups. Those women who maybe, or organizations who have an idea, but they haven't even started down the path yet of how they're going to create that business. And on the other extreme, there are a lot of programs for those individuals and businesses that have reached $1 million in revenue. But what's in between is this big gap that studies have shown called the missing middle. And it's those organizations, those small and medium-sized businesses who haven't reached that revenue growth yet. They may still be small. It may be an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, but it's someone who has established a business, but just wants to take their business to that next level. That's the missing middle. And that's who this program is really created for, so that we could reach that large segment of women who haven't quite achieved that higher extreme yet. So our program, the NAWBO Institute for Business, is really what we see as 3 key benefits of the program. And first and foremost, it's about action. It's about creating a growth action plan so that when you start the program, we're going to build that action plan throughout the entire 7 months. And when you end the program, you're going to leave with an action plan, a business plan for your business. We're not just talking about topical areas, but it's going to be very action-oriented, hands-on, and interactive, and building that plan. So that was very important to us as we built the program. And in a few minutes, when Karla shares her experience, you'll find that when we talked with the first cohort, and what they loved most about the program was that very thing, that they were giving that tangible directive to build their business. But stemming from that, another key benefit, which was also called out by our cohort, was just the bonding and the networking with women business owners. We purposely have designed this program to be a smaller class. That's another key difference between our program and some other programs that are out there right now, is we really want our cohort to be about 10 to 12 women business owners. And that's designed on purpose so that for facilitation purposes and interactive purposes, we can really dig in deep, have a great conversation, and not get bogged down in it being a large class size, because sometimes then you feel like you're not having those deeper conversations. So that's really important to us, and why we've designed the class to be a smaller size. But you're going to develop, because of that, you're going to develop a really great bond with those other members in your cohort. I've been through other leadership programs throughout my career, and some years ago, and I am such good friends with some of those people that I met that I would never have met or gotten to know well had I not gone through the program. And to this day, there's some of my best friends, there's some of my best professional friends who I count on and rely on for ideas and interaction. So we know that that bonding is a key component and what it can do for you short term while we're in the program, but also what can be done long term as well for your career and your business. And then thirdly, the key benefit is really education through engagement. You know, we're not going to just have you listen to a speaker and then have you go away and try to process that information on your own. But at each session, where we have a different topical area, we're going to engage in a great discussion about each of those topics and how it can relate to each of you and your businesses. So those are really kind of what the key benefits are. And I want to just also emphasize the point I made just a minute ago is about a safe and confidential learning environment. We really want this to be where you can feel comfortable talking with this group of women and feel comfortable in sharing what you have to share. We do strive to have non-competitive organizations in the cohort. We can't guarantee that there won't be another industry peer that you might have, but typically you can still have industry peers but not be in direct competition. So we will strive on that to also have it be a confidential opportunity for you. So that's kind of the key overarching benefits. So what I'd like to do now, before I get into the details of the program, I'll come back to that a little later. I'm going to turn it over to Karla. And as you know, being a member of the first cohort, I would love for her to share her experience and her thoughts about the Business Institute.
Sure. Thank you, Tamara. As you can see on the screen, this was the testimonial that I put together, and I did not take this lightly. I had rewrote it 3 or 4 different times because I kept thinking of new things that it did for me. And then I finally realized I could write a book. So I'm going to try to keep it simplified. But I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share today. I thoroughly enjoyed the Business Institute. It was extremely valuable to me. And I made a list of 6, maybe I'll say 6.5 of the top benefits. There's more, but I tried to find the most highly sought after benefits or the most valuable to me as a business owner. First and foremost, I remember the very first day, the very first session. Oh, my apologies for that.
We gotta love those working from home, right? It's created an atmosphere that's very different than always being in the office, but I think it's so humanized everybody's lives today, which kind of actually brings a smile to my face as we deal with our home and family.
Yes, he's been quiet for 2 hours, and then of course he barks with it and nothing.
He wanted to say hello.
I apologize. Okay, let me pick up where I left off. First and foremost, the very first session, I remember instantly feeling, and I think somebody even said, one of the facilitators or speakers said, this is a judge-free zone. And it's one thing to say it, but I experienced that every session and all of the interactions with the rest of the participants in between sessions. Never once did I feel judged. Never once did I feel like I was judging. It's very open, an open environment to really share not only things that are working, that are helping, but obstacles that you're facing, because somebody in the room always had an idea that we could try. And a lot of times, my favorite part of each session was near the end, where we could open up dialogue and talk about what are we struggling with as a business owner. And our peers, participants would throw out ideas like, well, have you tried this? What about something like this? Here's what I did when that happened to me. And I got a ton of information doing that. The number one, not in any particular order, benefit for me that really attracted me was the wide array of topics. There were so many different topics that really, truly, there will be certain topics that maybe aren't as applicable to certain business owners, but maybe are applicable to others. But for me, for the most part, every topic was somehow affected by my business, or had a part to play in my business. And so I felt like it was extremely well-rounded. Number two, expert speakers. Every speaker that was picked for each of the sessions based on those particular topics did a fantastic job. In fact, two of them I ended up hiring. I know that's not why they did it, but I was so impressed with their knowledge in how they presented themselves, and reached out to them and have worked with them in some way, and eventually maybe more. Three, collaboration among other business owners. So the other participants in the group, we did a lot of collaboration. And I mentioned this earlier, but I will say again, having the ability to open up and talk with one another and bounce ideas off of each other was invaluable to me. I got a lot from that. Four, peer mentors. There were multiple times in between each session where I would send an email to the group, or even just one of the participants that maybe had expertise in an area that I was struggling with, or maybe needed an idea, or needed some help. And everybody was willing to jump right in and offer their help and advice. I felt a lot of guidance. I felt a lot of support throughout the process. Five, quarterly touch points. And I know there's been times where it doesn't always work for everyone, even if it's scheduled, but the reality is it doesn't stop when the class is over. It continues on. This really is a journey in your business owner process and in your business owner journey altogether. And to end after the 6 or 7 sessions is just unrealistic. And this did not do that. So we had quarterly touch points, and we would touch base with each other. And not only did that allow us to reconnect, because now we're not seeing each other every month at the same time, so it keeps us connected in that way, but it gave us an opportunity to, which is number 6, create accountability for each other. The easiest thing to do after you take a class is to take your training materials and put it up on a shelf and never look at it again. And we all do it. I know, I've done it many times. But I literally had to pull out my binder every month and take my plan of action, my growth plan that we had to present at the last session, and review it. Where am I at? Did I hit the goal, the KPIs that I set for myself? How am I measuring my success? Am I where I need to be at this point in the year? It really forced me to hold myself accountable, but the quarterly touch points allowed us to hold each other accountable, so we didn't put it on the shelf and get dusty. So there are many other benefits that I would say certainly came out of the Business Institute from NAWBO, Iowa, but I would say those were the top 6. And we've been done for how many months now? 10 months. And I still pull this up constantly. I have a copy at my office and a copy here at my home office. And I utilize it quite a bit. I'm constantly changing it. I presented it to my team of employees, and we made some tweaks. And so we all have ownership in that plan. So as you can see, overall, this was extremely beneficial. And I tell everybody that I meet, if you haven't done it or looked into it, you need to. It was incredibly valuable for me.
Great, thanks, Karla. And such a wide array of benefits that you mentioned, and I think especially the last one you talked about, the accountability. It is with that growth plan, it is bringing accountability to the table. And, in my work, I do a lot of strategic planning and marketing planning, and the whole goal is to create a measurable and actionable plan so that it doesn't just sit on the shelf. How many times have we done those types of things, and the next thing you know, it's sitting there. And our goal is to make it so that it's not overwhelming, but a plan that makes sense and is realistic. It's important that it's realistic to your budget, to your capacity, to your goals, to the environment. And we look at all those things to make sure that it can be accountable to you. So thanks, Karla, for sharing your experience with the Institute. And as Karla mentioned too, the quarterly touch points, one of the things that we've started to do when the first cohort ended, because they wanted to stay in touch and they wanted to keep accountable to help each other stay accountable. We are meeting quarterly by Zoom with that first cohort, so they can talk about what is one of the goals that they had and how's it going, or maybe they have a question to ask the group about how should I be thinking about this. So I appreciated your note too about that it doesn't stop, because there is that activity, and that's something that we will continue to do with each cohort, is try to process that on that long-term journey for the cohort so they can stay accountable to their plans. I'd like to share another quote that if you've been on our website, you've probably seen it, but one of Karla's cohort members was Alicia Shaw, who's a CPA, has her own accounting firm, and she actually updated her complete employee manual after the human resources and contract vendors session. And she said that it actually was incredible to do that. And she realized how important that was after the fact, because she actually had put in place some things in her business that helped her win an unemployment claim after the fact, which she said could have cost her a lot of money. And she said she just can't. She said the Institute has paid for that one item over and over again because she had the expert knowledge about just some of that, the employee handbook information. So Karla brought that very holistic approach, and then with Alicia's thoughts, a very, very specific item that happened to her, and how she was able to overcome that from learnings in the Business Institute. So wanted to share, I know if you have seen our material, these aren't new points of criteria for you, but wanted to kind of highlight these. And then as we get into questions and answers, there might be some specific questions about the Institute. But as I talked earlier about the missing middle, we really do want this to be individuals who have been in business at least a year or have started within that year. We have been flexible with that. We just want to make sure, again, that it's not just an idea that you're germinating, but you really have established the business. The reason why it's great if you have been in business for at least a year is because you've got some of that experience behind you to come into the Institute with a little bit more of business experience that you can actually have questions about, and the learnings might be more applicable or more understandable to you. However, we are flexible, and that's in place for that reason, but happy to talk with anyone. But a lot of our businesses have been around for 5 years, 10 years. It might even be someone who's a small business who's been in business for 12 years and just hasn't seen that growth and is ready to really focus on that and make it happen. So quite honestly, it doesn't mean just a newer business either of a few years. There are women business owners who can benefit this along that journey. The missing middles under $1 million, that is a set criteria that we do want to work with, because I think once you get past that, even at under $1 million and above 500,000 can be some different business scenarios than a smaller business than that. Right. So, but however, we are being pretty flexible on that up to $1 million, because there are other programs. NAWBO has one in particular that is for the $1 million circle. So we're trying to stay under that. This third bullet, whether you're a sole proprietor or have employees, it's one that we've wrestled with quite a bit, but because there are some issues that are different, to Karla's point, that as a sole proprietor, which I don't have employees, but I do use independent contractors. So what we try to do in that session is make sure that we're covering that from both standpoints. And many sole proprietors too intend to have employees. So you may not be there yet, but you're going to get to that point, and so you can still learn from that information. But we want to be very sensitive that our cohort may come from different size of businesses as relative to employee size, and we will definitely take that into consideration about how we talk about the topic and such. We do want all applicants to, if you apply for the program, to really commit to all sessions. We know that life happens and things come up and emergencies happen, and that might be an issue. But we really want you to commit, because it really is a building block. You are really building from session to session to build towards that final plan. And to miss one key topical area could be a big miss for you. So we do hope that when you apply, that you'll put it and you'll make it a priority on your calendar and commit to that. Quite honestly, when I coach individuals or in planning sessions, and I have to tell myself this a lot of times, that when I'm working on business development, so to speak, that you have to carve out so much time each week to do that, because our clients or our business customers, they come first and they're our priority. But if we don't carve out time and make it a priority for business development, business planning, it keeps getting pushed off. So it kind of just comes back to giving yourself that time and committing and allowing you the time to commit to your business. And we do have you sign a confidentiality agreement that just goes back to that safe and confidential environment that we want to work within. A benefit that you can get, this is open to non-members as well as members of NAWBO, and we do have an incentive that because the price for the program is a little bit higher for non-members, but if you do join NAWBO by the end of the class, we will discount your dues $100, which brings the non-member institute fee even closer to the member fee. So consider that, if you're not a member already, that there is some savings in that overall price. So that's kind of some of the general criteria of the program. And then lastly, before we get to questions, I did want to just run through, because some of the questions we have gotten in the past are about the program curriculum as well. And this is the outline of the 7 sessions. Now, the order of these may change. The first and last one will definitely stay intact. We always start out with that first session, an overview of building a plan, how you go about doing that, creating a vision, creating a mission, and really understanding your target audiences, because those 3 components are critical before you can even start talking about goal setting, strategies, etc. So that session is our first session. I'll be leading that session to help you work through that information. But how we've structured each month's class, we have the 7 monthly classes, and the first half of the class are our speakers working and presenting information of value to you. And then the last half of the class is a facilitated open discussion with the cohort, where we're all conversing. While I might be facilitating that discussion, it's really designed and driven by the questions that you have and how you want to converse with the other classmates. But in the vision mission, we do plan to get hands-on in creating that with you, so that you come to the next class having developed that. So again, that building block, there will be homework after each class. We will be setting goals after each topical area of how that builds into your plan, and that's designed on purpose as well. So as we cover these different topical areas, you'll have goals set along the way, so you're not scurrying at the end to create this big plan, but you're building it in segments, and it makes it a lot easier for you to do as well. Financials and growth is critical to have in any type of session like this. And we'll have speakers in that talk about, how do you read financials? How do you look at budgets? Why are they important? And what are some of those metrics that you need to think about as you grow your business? We might be talking about how do you set priorities and how do you look at income and expenses. So all of those things that really wrap around their financial statements, the metrics, and how you grow your business from a financial standpoint. It's very critical. Probably one of the biggest topics that we get and get the most questions for is in the area of marketing and sales. And so we'll have some expert speakers talking about that from both the marketing standpoint, social media specifically, because that's a whole animal in itself, very dynamic. And social media is such a big dynamic for any business plan. Market research and how important it is to listen to your target audiences and listen to your customers and how you can go about doing that. How you can build, marketing strategies and tactics, and certainly the sales cycle will be covered as well. Operations and how that differs from the HR contract vendors. HR is probably more straightforward. It really is about, if you have employees, how do you think about those from an HR standpoint, whether it's handbooks, resources, how do you build that culture, an employee culture? It might be about how do you engage with both employees, or how do you build partners with your vendors, with your outside contractors. It's really important to look at it, as I mentioned earlier, from both sides of with employees or not employees. Coming back to operations, that's a little bit broader. So to kind of define that more, what we really cover there is how do we make our businesses more efficient? How do we put processes in place that allow you to be efficient, that allow you to have structure, to organize your time, if you have staff, to organize your staff? What are the technologies that you can use to be more efficient or more effective in your business? So operations is really going to look at that from a processes and technology standpoint to help you grow your business in that way. And one thing that we're adding this year that we've added to the program is the whole area of personal leadership and growth. And now certainly there are a lot of executive coaches helping with leadership growth. We're taking a kind of a different angle with this as a business owner, and focused a lot on you as the business owner, and how can you basically give yourself time and space to build the resources and tools that you need to be a successful business owner, whether you're a solopreneur or whether you have staff. And one of the speakers that we'll have joining us actually works in a very unique sphere of leadership development, and that's really about kind of mindfulness and the whole area of what are the saboteurs that cause us to not be successful as an individual, personally and professionally. It's fascinating work, and it's work that I really have gained a lot from myself, having experienced some of the things that she talks about. So that is that program. Certainly a lot of that will parlay into your business as well. But this program is about you and about your business, and that's what we're going to focus on in the program. And the last session is, as Karla mentioned, it is a share out where we're going to have you share your growth action plan with the group. And again, smaller class size, so we can do that. You may not be able to spend and go through your entire plan in complexity, but you'll be highlighting some of the key goals that you've established, and allow you then to get reactions to and feedback from your peers in the cohort about your plan and any other ideas that you might have. So that's kind of how the curriculum lines up in a holistic way from top to bottom in those seven classes. And as you can see, we will meet in the afternoons. We've designated the first Wednesday from January through July. Our location is in West Des Moines. And just as a note about COVID, I know that everybody kind of has different personal perceptions and comfort levels with COVID right now. And the location at West 48, we used it last time. It's very big, but still a great space for a small class. You're going to each have your own table that's on wheels. We can spread them apart, but yet we can feel like we can converse in a small round table. And so you will have social distancing. We haven't really decided on if masks are mandatory yet. We'll kind of see in January, where everything's at with the CDC. But certainly masks are always encouraged if that's, what you are comfortable with. But we'll keep posted on the whole COVID situation. But do want you to know that we've taken it very seriously. Our first cohort launched kind of right in the midst of COVID, and we pivoted very easily. and went to virtual, and the cohort still had a great experience. So something that we can live through, and if we have to do it again, we'll do that. So what I'd like to do is stop sharing my screen and see if there are questions that you have for Karla or I about the program in general. And Lindsay, I know that you're still with us here throughout the presentation. So would love to hear from your perspective as someone who's new to NAWBO and who is interested in the Institute, of what you'd like us to elaborate on, or other questions that you have.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that, do you guys just only allow so many people in, or do you create multiple groups?
Yeah, great question. You know, because we're a young program, we've only been through it once. We do have the long-term goal of having 2 tracks, one for solopreneurs and one for businesses with employees. But until we get enough interest in the program to fill 2 classes, we're going with 1 class right now. And we are looking at keeping it at 10 to 12 max. Probably we'd go down to 6 or 8 as well. What we want to do is make sure, again, that there's not extreme competitors within. And if we do get the demand to have 2 classes, we will continue to do that. We might stagger the start dates of those so they're not on top of each other. But we are looking at a lot of different scenarios as we grow the program. And then as far as if we get a larger demand to fill 1 class, but we can't fill 2 quite yet, NAWBO members will get a priority as a value to membership, and then we will look at applications of non-members as well. But we may, if we get 10 applicants and they all qualify, we'll have a mix of members and non-members as well. Does that answer that question?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
I guess the last question I have is, what's the cost?
Yeah. So the cost of the program for NAWBO members is $1,000, and that's spread out, of course, over 7 sessions. So if you think about it, it's a little more than $100 per month. So if you kind of are looking at a monthly business expense, you know, about $125 a month or so. And we think that hopefully that's manageable for small businesses, but we are very sensitive not to have it an extreme cost. You know, NAWBO Iowa is subsidizing to some degree to help keep that cost down, and because we are sensitive to that. But with non-members, it's $1,250 a person. But that's where that discount comes in. If you do join NAWBO before the class is over, that would draw it down to $1,150. So pretty close to the member cost. So yeah, so if you kind of, as I mentioned, if you kind of look at that on a monthly rate, and then look at it holistically. But the additional cohort meetings on a quarterly basis after the program ends, there's no cost to that. We're just kind of building that in. So when you think about it, $1,000 in 7 sessions, it really is more than that, because our quarterly Zoom calls have been running about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes or so. And that's, you know, 4 times a year that you're getting that peer networking, and I'm involved in those as well to help facilitate those sessions. So really the $1,000 is kind of a long-term cost because we're not charging for that ongoing activity. Karla, do you have anything to add about how you thought about the cost of the program and the value that it brought?
You know, at first I was like, oh gosh, I hope I can afford it. But a friend of mine who owns a business, she told me, she said, at what price do you put a cap on your own investment? And I was like, okay, fine, you're right. She's so right. So I wasn't looking at it the right way. I was looking at it as, gosh, I hope I can, you know, how do I pay for this? How am I going to afford this? But then I realized, can I afford not to do this? What happens to my business? Not that it would fail, but would I get to the next level that I'm dying to get to if I don't do this? And so once I changed my perspective, I realized this is a very small price to pay for what I got from it. And now that I've been through it, I can assure you it was worth every penny. My sales went up, my efficiencies increased. I was able to cut 12% of my expenses. So my profitability, my profit margin went up 8%. I mean, it more than paid for itself. So you have to really look at the whole picture, not just the price tag. And that helped me tremendously. And I'm glad I did it. I wouldn't be where my business is right now if I hadn't done it. I'm pretty confident in that. So.
Lindsay, do you have any other questions?
No, those were the only two.
Okay. I did get a couple questions of folks that aren't on the call today. And one person was asking what the NAWBO dues are if they were to join NAWBO. And I had to remind myself and look it up, but there's different levels of membership. And the premier membership, which is what the majority of our members are, is $360 a year. And that allows you voting privileges. It allows you to serve on the board committees. There is a level below that called the basic level. That's $240 a year. And that you don't have those other rights as far as voting and involvement, but you still are accorded membership and attendance at the meetings and considered a member. We do have member and non-member event rates, so you do have a savings if you're a member that way. And then there is a $100 a one-time initiation fee to join NAWBO, but again, that's a one-time fee. So someone was asking about the NAWBO dues. And then, as well as planning for that, as long as if you were to do the Institute as a member or non-member rate. And then the last question that I got was the types of businesses that we had in the cohort before. And, it probably will depend from cohort to cohort based on who applies. But in the first cohort, we had insurance, which was Karla. We had a marketing PR agency. We had a CPA firm. We had a design professional firm. We had a financial planning firm. We actually had a couple more. We had some retail shops that started the program with us, and COVID was really hard on retailers, as you know, all know, and they just, for the salvation of their business, had to pull out because of time. But so we did have a mix of B2B and B2C, which was really fun because you do learn. The one thing I found with working with different businesses and from strategy and marketing is you may be focused in your industry, but there's so much you can learn from other industries as well. I mean, best practices can come from other industry, and sometimes it's almost better to look outside industry because you kind of take the blinders off and you think about things in a different way. So I think in our first cohort, Karla, wouldn't you agree? We had a great range of business types, and it worked really well.
Yeah, and it was interesting to hear other perspectives of businesses that had more employees than me, less employees than me, or no employees. And that's just one spectrum, right? There's employees, is just one category, but it was nice because it was very well rounded and it wasn't everybody from the same area. So you really got to see many different perspectives and hear from different people.
Mm-hmm. And with each session, we'll have 2 speakers per session that'll talk in that first half, as I mentioned, and then in the last half is where we're going to really get down and talk through things as a group and your very specific planning efforts. So, all right. Well, those are the questions that we've received today. Karla, any last planning or any last comments you want to share?
Again, I would just say what it did for me was substantial for my business, and I'm really glad I did. I have 0 regrets. And even though it was in the middle of COVID and we had to switch to virtual, actually in some ways that was just as beneficial because you could see everybody on one screen and not having different side conversations going on that you were missing out on. It was more, it was easier to be attentive to what was being said across the team. But I cannot speak enough. I can't say enough to any woman business owner about what it did for me in my business and how it propelled me to the next level. And really encourage any woman business owner that's even thinking about it to invest in yourself and your business because you deserve it. And we always put ourselves last. And sometimes it's a woman thing, and sometimes that's a business owner thing, but we have to stop doing that. We have to be willing to invest in ourselves and our future because our business is our baby and it is our legacy. So
Yeah.
a great use of funds for sure.
Well put. Thanks, Karla. Yes, to all of you that joined in today to listen to more about the Business Institute, we really do hope that you will apply, and we'd love to have you join us. I'm so excited to get the second class going. I love doing this kind of work, and I just am looking forward to everybody's energy coming together and having a great time, both personally and professionally. So thanks for joining us and learning more about NAWBO Iowa's Business Institute. Have a great day. I'm trying to find my